Nigel Farage has just spent 3 minutes completely trashing the armed services. And then he had the audacity to say this.
Well, I can promise you, Reform are on the side of our armed forces.
That's right, Nigel Farage has just told his audience that the RAF is currently running a war on white men. He didn't mention the scandal he's quoting from is 3 years old. He didn't mention it was investigated and apologised for by the Conservative Defence Secretary. He didn't mention it was already fixed before Labour even came into government, and he definitely didn't mention that the whole reason he's dragging it back out now is to try and get you to sign up to Substack. So let's go through it properly.
We all know that the effectiveness of our armed forces is nothing like it used to be. It took us 3 weeks and 1 day to send a single Royal Naval vessel down to Cyprus to defend an RAF base a couple of months ago. Yes, the Conservatives hollowed out in their 14 years in government Britain's armed forces and reduced expenditure on our military. Labour show no inclination to change any of that, leading of course to the recent row with the resignation of the Defence Secretary and a Defence Minister. And it looks like nothing is going to change.
So the setup here is that the armed forces is hollowed out. It took 3 weeks to get a naval ship to Cyprus, and that Labour show no inclination in how to fix any of it. Okay, fine. That bit's not controversial. The Tories did gut defence spending over 14 years, and yes, we just watched the Defence Secretary and the Armed Forces Minister resign within days of each other. And that is a real story, and we covered it here on the channel too. Except Healey didn't resign over diversity policy. He resigned because the Treasury wouldn't fund the Defence Investment Plan, and he said the shortfall would make the country less safe. That's a money story, and it's got nothing to do with what Farage spends the rest of the clip talking about. He's just using a real current embarrassing resignation as a doorway into a completely different argument, because the government underfunds defence doesn't get you a Substack subscriber the way the RAF hates white men does.
But what I bet you don't know is that our armed forces are being hollowed out from the inside as well. You might remember just a few years ago, British Army adverts, be the best, boom. That was the thing. Join the British Army, make the absolute best of yourself and join the best army in the world. They were adverts that said we're proud of who we are and what we do. Now we see adverts for the British Army saying it doesn't matter what religion you are, you can carry on your own religious practices and be part of the British Army, as if that had ever made any difference at all.
Then we get to the campaign ad bit. To be the best used to mean something. Now it's all inclusion messaging and woe is the British Army. I'm not going to pretend recruitment marketing hasn't shifted tone over the years. I mean, it has, but it moves with the times. Across most public institutions, that's not news. That's just how it is. But notice what he doesn't give you here. No date, no campaign name, no spend figure, nothing you could actually check. It's just feelings. And it's just there to soften you up before the part of the clip that actually has the real story attached to it.
But the RAF in the last couple of years have now sunk to new lows, absolute new lows. Like the Army, there are DEI units all the way through the organisation. And indeed, when it comes to recruitment, well, women and those from ethnic minorities have been preferred over white males. Indeed, Group Captain Lizzie Nichol even resigned over this issue. She thought operationally what she was being asked to do in terms of candidate selections was frankly not just wrong, but probably ought to be illegal.
And here's that real story. Group Captain Elizabeth Nichol resigning from the RAF recruitment. 160 odd cases of preference given to women and ethnic minority candidates over white men. Okay, so maybe that bit is true. I want to be completely clear about that because the temptation with Farage is just to assume everything is nonsense. And he always does have a kernel of truth to it. So this one is real. Well, it's, kind of well documented. And it should have made the news at the time. And it did. So here's what actually happened. Between 2020 and 2021, the RAF fast-tracked 160 women and ethnic minority recruits into the initial training ahead of other candidates, chasing diversity targets set by senior leadership. Group Captain Nichol took over recruitment in March of 2021, decided the practice was unlawful and refused to carry on with it. And she was right. An independent inquiry confirmed it. 31 men missed out on a £5,000 joining bonus because of the delays, and they were being compensated for it. So far, so Farage. Except, when did all this actually get resolved? Well, it was June of 2023. The Chief of the Air Staff issued a full, unreserved apology. The Defence Secretary at the time called it a significant error. The Defence Secretary was Ben Wallace, a Conservative, under a Conservative government. 3 full years before Farage stood in front of a camera and called it something happening in the last couple of years, as if it's still going on right now, today, under Keir Starmer. It isn't. I've checked the government's own diversity statistics. There have been no published recruitment targets for women or ethnic minorities in the armed forces since April of 2020. The exact mechanism that caused this scandal, hard targets overriding merit, was switched off before most of the controversy even became public. What Farage is describing as a live, ongoing crisis is a closed case, apologised for, compensated, reformed, by the very institution he's accusing of doing all of it.
And this is happening through all 3 of our services. We've decided it's better for the DEI anti-white agenda to pervade rather than pick the best people for the job. Our military need to be an absolute meritocracy. We need to take the absolute best, those that are physically and mentally the fittest to do the job. And I can promise you, reform are on the side of our armed forces.
That's not an oversight. That's the entire pitch. A genuine, damning 3-year-old already resolved story repackaged with present tense language so it sounds like it's breaking news instead of recycling old news. New lows, he says. New compared to what? 2023? Then the close.
We will make sure that the DEI agenda is swept away from the Army, the Air Force, and from the RAF. I talk about this and much else in my Substack post, which opened just a few days ago. All you need to do to find out more, get more facts and figures, be shocked at the state our country's got into, be shocked at the 2-tier Britain that is now there for all to see if only they choose. Just type Nigel Farage into Substack, subscribe, and you can read it all for free.
Reform will sweep away the DEI agenda from the Army, the Air Force, the RAF. Read about it on my Substack. Type Nigel Farage into Substack. Subscribe, it's all free. Of course it's free. The free version is the bait. He's not selling you the facts. He's selling you the outrage at a problem that's already been fixed, packaged as a reason to hand over your email address. Here's the actual Patriot test. If you genuinely cared about the armed forces, the story sitting in front of you this month is a Defence Secretary resigning because he believed the government's funding plan will get British personnel killed. That's the actual story. That's now. That's checkable and sourceable, and that happened to the people Farage claims to be standing up for. He skipped it in about 4 seconds, on the way to a 3-year-old scandal that's already been apologised for. Because it's a better recruitment tool for his mailing list than it is a reason to actually scrutinise the government's defence spending. It's clearly not patriotism, it's just better marketing. And to see why Restore is really scary reform, well, you need to watch the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching, don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.